Beauty is not just what others see. It is a mirror that forces them to face what they refuse to heal. Your beauty has never been just about symmetry, skincare, or the way your clothes fall when you enter a room. And if you have ever wondered why otherwise confident men become awkward, defensive, dismissive, or even hostile around you, it is because beauty is psychological voltage, and voltage reveals circuitry. And the truth is that many men have never been taught how to safely carry the current of a powerful feminine presence. So their nervous system treats you like a storm to be controlled rather than a climate to be understood. When a man looks at a beautiful woman, he believes he is seeing you. But inside his mind, he is actually seeing an old projection, a collage of impressions woven from childhood, adolescence, peers, music videos, social media, and the first girl who rejected him. And this is why the same face can evoke admiration in one man, resentment in another, and compulsive pursuit in a third. He is not responding to you as a person, but to the story his nervous system glued on top of you long before he learned your name. This projection has a logic, because the psyche seeks equilibrium the way water finds its level. And when a man carries unloved parts of himself, his embarrassment, his timidness, his unclaimed confidence, his abandoned tenderness, your beauty will pull those shadows to the surface like the moon pulls tides, and rather than thanking you for the chance to become whole, many will try to push the tide back with sarcasm, distance, control, or even quick superficial praise that never becomes respect. Because praise is easy, but respect is expensive and requires a transformation he may not be ready to fund. This is why your beauty triggers him. Not because you are mean, manipulative, high maintenance, or any of the childish labels carelessly thrown at women every day, but because your beauty is a live demonstration of possibility and standard, and possibility scares those who have settled, while standard offends those who have not trained. Since excellence exposes laziness the way sunlight exposes dust, and to a man who secretly doubts his worth, your very existence can feel like a pop quiz he did not study for. What most women are never told is that beauty is an amplifier, and amplifiers make the music better, but they also make the static loud, so you will get more smiles but also more envy, more invitations, but also more tests, more attention, but also more attempts to control that attention. And if you internalize those reactions as a verdict on your worth, you will slowly contort yourself into shapes that fit small hearts and small rooms, trading radiance for approval and mistaking peace for the absence of complaints rather than the presence of integrity. The male psyche is shaped by early experiences with women, especially the mother image, and when those experiences were cold, chaotic, overbearing, or inconsistent, a man can unconsciously split the feminine into two extremes: the saint he wants to worship and the temptress he wants to blame. And the tragedy is that he meets you with this split still inside him. So if his life is unintegrated, he will try to force you into one of these categories, praising you when you soothe his insecurity and punishing you when you awaken his longing for more than he currently is. Many men are good people carrying bad maps, and those maps were drawn by cultures that equate value with dominance, desire with conquest, and intimacy with performance. So when he stands before a woman who does not need him to breathe, yet might choose him, it scrambles the code he was taught, because his map said he must rescue to be valuable, impress to be chosen, and possess to be safe. And your calm self-sufficiency introduces a new geography where connection is not a trophy, but a living dialogue. One pattern that often appears is the hot and cold dance, where he floods you with attention and then withdraws, not because you did something wrong, but because closeness activates terror in someone who equates vulnerability with danger. And when the terror rises, he regains control by retreating, criticizing, or busying himself. And if you are not grounded, you will chase the warmth he created, thereby confirming his unconscious belief that closeness means losing himself, which pulls you both into a loop that feels like chemistry, but is actually unhealed history. Jealousy is a third trigger, and its root is usually not your behavior, but his scarcity mindset. Because if he secretly believes that love is limited and attention is oxygen, then every glance you receive becomes a threat, and every compliment becomes evidence of his replaceability. and he will try to manage this anxiety by policing your clothes, your friendships, your social media, or your opportunities. But control does not heal fear. It just hides it. And love cannot breathe in a room where one person must shrink for the other to feel safe. The solution is not to become less beautiful, less visible, or less yourself. The solution is to build an internal environment where other people's projections burn out on the boundary rather than burn you from within. And that begins by understanding that reactions to your beauty are data, not destiny, a mirror, not a mandate. And when you treat every reaction as information instead of a verdict, you reclaim authorship over how you move in rooms that are not yet calibrated for women like you. Language protects you, and language can also free you, so develop a repertoire of gentle gates, the phrases that let good energy in and keep bad energy out without turning you hard, because hardness is not the same as strength and softness is not the same as weakness. And an example of a gentle gate is, "Thank you for the compliment. I prefer to keep this conversation professional," or "I appreciate the invitation. I'm not available, but I wish you well," or "I'm not interested in being compared. I like to be understood," each delivered with warmth that ends the argument because you are not offering one. Selection is strategy, and strategy does not mean being cold. It means being precise. So study the early signals that reveal a man's relationship with power, with women, with discomfort, and with truth, because the future sits inside the first 5 conversations. Notice how he responds to your no, how he treats service staff, how he talks about women he is not trying to impress, how he handles silence when there is nothing to perform, and how quickly he tries to move from acquaintance to control, since speed can be a tactic to outrun your discernment. Attraction is not a command, it is a current, and currents can be navigated with skill, so when you sense intensity that feels like worship, slow it down, because worship easily flips to resentment when reality arrives, and when you sense indifference that feels like a test, step out, because tests are not love languages, they are fear dialects, and you do not need to enroll in a man's unresolved curriculum to prove you deserve a diploma that your soul already holds. A man who is truly ready for a beautiful woman, inside and out, does not merely tolerate your shine. He calibrates to it, expanding his breath and his habits so that your presence becomes an invitation rather than a threat. And you will know this man not by the volume of his compliments, but by the consistency of his respect, not by how loudly he performs possessiveness, but by how quietly he protects your autonomy, and not by how quickly he escalates intimacy, but by how steadily he builds trust through congruent actions over time. Respect is the real aphrodisiac, and respect is not a speech. It is a structure composed of micro-choices. He shows up when he says he will, he listens when there is nothing to win, he clarifies instead of assuming, he apologizes without weaponizing guilt, he asks before he touches. He notices when you withdraw and checks in without panic, and he does not punish your boundaries because he has learned to treat boundaries as bridges rather than prisons. And this is how the masculine holds space for the feminine without trying to cage it. One powerful reframing is this: your beauty is an integrity test for other people, not a morality test for you. And when somebody fails the test by becoming controlling, dismissive, competitive, or cruel, you do not have to rewrite yourself. You simply record the data and move accordingly, because life is long, energy is finite, and every minute spent convincing the wrong person is a minute stolen from the right community that would have offered water instead of argument. There is also the question of economic projection, where a man's unhealed relationship with success, money, and status gets mapped onto your body, because beauty is often equated with social capital, and social capital intimidates those who fear they cannot reciprocate, so they either try to extract value quickly, dates, photos, sex, validation, or they try to sabotage it with rumor and ridicule, but your worth is not a stock to be shorted. It is a family-owned company with dividends paid in peace, and you control the cap table. The art of detachment matters here, because detachment is not indifference. It is intimacy without addiction, love without leaking, willingness without worship. And when your heart can stay open while your standards stay high, you no longer take a man's trigger personally, you take it informationally, and you give him space to rise without granting him permission to ruin, holding both compassion and consequence in the same breath, which is the posture of a woman who has met herself and refuses to misplace herself again. Your friendships are your training ground, because good women around you weaken the cultural noise, and together you can denormalize the rituals of self-doubt that often travel with beauty, the apology disguised as compliment, the toxic humility that dismisses your work, the social compliance that says yes when your body is screaming no, and the over-explanation that tries to earn basic respect. And with practice, your circle will become a sanctuary where your full self is ordinary, which makes it easier to treat anything else as unacceptable. Healing is not an emergency. It is an apprenticeship. And every time you return to your breath, name your experience, and respond from choice rather than reflex, you graduate a little, and men who are ready will feel the graduation in your presence. The quiet steadiness, the unhurried responses, the gentle refusal to perform, the lack of panic when someone withdraws affection, the clarity with which you end conversations that are not truly conversations, and the way you do not demonize anyone, you simply depart. The world will try to turn your beauty into a commodity, and some men will reinforce that by treating you as a prize instead of a person. But you can step out of that market by anchoring your identity in values that cannot be appraised by followers, DMs, or rings. Kindness that does not kiss cruelty, courage that does not need a crowd, curiosity that outlives attention spans, and joy that is not rented from external validation. Because when your glow is sourced internally, it is weatherproof. Every woman has stories she wishes she did not, and some of those stories are heavy, and if you have been harmed or stalked or chronically manipulated, your safety is not a theory. It is the first priority, so involve trusted friends, community, mentors, or professionals as needed, because strong women ask for help when the task is not soloable, and asking for help is not a weakness. It is a wisdom that keeps you alive long enough to enjoy the life you are building. You are allowed to choose the slow burn over the flash fire, to say not yet to intensity and yes please to consistency, because drama can feel like destiny when you are used to nervous system fireworks. But destiny often sounds like quiet laughter and looks like a calendar kept and tastes like simple food cooked with care. And men who cherish you will be comfortable with ordinary magic because they do not need chaos to feel alive. They need connection to feel honest. If you are dating, remember that matching energy is not always wisdom. Sometimes outgrowing energy is, so if a man is guarded, you do not punish him by becoming more guarded. You become clearer and slower, and if he is inconsistent, you do not perform availability to win him. You become consistent with yourself and withdraw your time, and if he is competitive with your shine, you do not dim. You step into rooms where collaboration is the culture because what you tolerate teaches, and you are a teacher whether you intend to be or not. When men are truly ready for you, they will not be triggered. They will be transformed by the invitation of your presence, not because you fix them, but because you refuse to break yourself to make room for their fear. And your refusal was a mirror and a mercy, and in that mercy, both of you became more human, which is what love is for. Not possession, not perfection, but the peculiar courage to see and to be seen without flinching. You are not a test to pass, a standard to resent, or a trophy to display. You are a chapter of the human story that refuses to be miswritten. And your beauty is the ink, your integrity the paper, your boundaries the binding, and your joy the signature at the bottom of every page. And anyone who wants to read must agree not to tear the book, because you intend to keep writing, and the plot keeps getting better. The next time someone is triggered by your beauty, remember this. Their reaction says, "I am meeting the part of me I have avoided," and your response can say, "I bless your meeting, but I am not your battlefield." And that single sentence, embodied and repeated, will give you your life back faster than any argument, because arguments ask people to think differently, while boundaries require them to behave differently. And behavior is where respect lives. You are free to be fully seen without becoming public property, free to be desired without becoming disposable, free to be admired without being managed, and free to be loved without being lost. And the men who step into that freedom with you will be the ones who put down their projections, pick up their responsibility, and meet you as an equal. Breath for breath, choice for choice, and respect for respect. If someone tells you that all of this is too philosophical and you should just play the game, smile, and remember that games are for entertainment, but lives are for meaning, and you are here for meaning. Here to build a life that does not collapse because a stranger could not name his fear. Here to love men who can love you back, and to leave those who cannot without cursing them, because curses are heavy and you need your hands free for the better work awaiting you. Your beauty is not a negotiator, it is an announcement, and the announcement is simple. I am here, unhidden, unhurried, unashamed, and those who hear it as a siren will crash because they have not learned to steer, while those who hear it as a song will harmonize because they have practiced being human. And you will know the difference by the way your body feels, expansive with the one, contracted with the other, so trust the instrument that has been tuned by your becoming. Women with a powerful presence often fear being too much, but too much is just the name small containers give to oceans, and you are an ocean. Not because you drown, but because you hold multitudes. And the men who have built sturdy boats will sail, and the ones who have only paper rafts will blame the water, and you do not need to become a puddle to save their rafts. You need to remain the ocean so the sailors can find you. One day, a man will encounter your beauty and not be triggered. He will be steadied, as if he has come home to a place he has never lived but always longed for, and he will not rush to possess the home. He will learn it. Its doors, its thresholds, its quiet hours, and the learning will be his joy. And in that joy you will finally experience what your nervous system has wanted all along. Desire that does not demand, attention that does not degrade, and love that does not require you to turn down your light to be seen. Until then, your task is simple and sacred. Keep your standard, keep your softness, keep your sovereignty, and keep your sense of humor, because humor punctures the balloon of other people's performances, and when performance deflates, truth can breathe, and when truth breathes, you will feel it as a deep ease in your body. The ease of a woman who knows that her beauty is not the spark that burns down rooms, but the lamp that brightens them, and the right people always bring more oil. This is the psychological truth attractive women must know. Your beauty is a force that exposes what people carry, and exposure does not make you responsible, it makes you sovereign. And sovereignty is not isolation, it is choice, and choice is love's favorite soil, because where there is choice, there can be trust. And where there is trust, intimacy can bloom into something that does not trigger the worst in people but invites the best. And that is the world you are helping to create simply by refusing to disappear.